Hello friends, welcome to the Tech with Soft. So now we are going to cover one of the important topic of object-oriented programming, polymorphism. Polymorphism is one of the important part because it does give a lot of scenarios in terms of development. So we will understand what are the different scenario it does provide it, right? So let's understand for definition what is a polymorphism. Okay, so polymorphism just consists of a two word poly plus morph. What is a poly? Poly means like many. Morph means like a form, right? So polymorph, that means many form. What it could be many form, that will be a method. If method are in a many form, that means that behavior is called polymorphism. Let me write that as well. If methods are having many form, right? Then it is called polymorphism. So we have a two type of polymorphism. One is a compile time polymorphism, which is called overloading, and second one is a runtime polymorphism, overriding. Sometimes we do call this runtime polymorphism is dynamic method dispatch also. Dynamic method dispatch. Okay, so runtime polymorphism or dynamic method dispatch called overriding. Compile type polymorphism is called overloading. So what is the overloading? If the same method define multiple time, right? But argument must be the like if the same method define multiple time in a single class, right? But the argument should be the different, right? But argument must be the different, right? Then it is called overloading. Then it is called overloading. What does it means? If the same method define multiple time in a single class, right? If the same method define a single class multiple time, but argument must be the different. If this following this condition, right? That means this condition comes under the overloading category, right? Argument will be the different, definitely, right? So how does it implement that? Let's look the code on it. So I have a like one package I created here, which is the name is like let me comment this code, otherwise it will give me error, because it will give me error, right? Because it is not possible in Java. Now I created one package called polymorphism, and let's take example of here. So I created a one class overloading example where I took two constructor. Now you have to think on that we have already covered it, right? One class can have more than one constructor. If one class is having a more than one constructor, right? That time the constructor name must be the same, because constructor name cannot be different, right? If I'm saying here overloading example, right? That means the name will be the same only, right? Uh-huh. So that means I can't keep that constructor name by the other name. So if I'm keeping more than one constructor, right? That means that definitely the name will be the same only, right? So that time that is also comes under the overloading. So we have a two type of overloading, constructor overloading and method overloading. If more than one constructor is there, constructor name will be the default, right? The same name only. So constructor overloading will happening by the default, but method name normally it does not having the same name, because I have a choice here. I can take any name of the method. Doesn't mean always it will be the test only, right? It may have any other name also. Like test, I can keep like this test one or something. It's not mandatory, right, for me. But if yeah, I have to fulfill some kind of condition, some kind of requirement, then I can use with the same name, right? So if we having like more than one method with the same name, but the body will be the different, right? This test will having a different name, this test will having a different name, right? That comes under the overloading example. So overloading is one of the concepts of polymorphism, which is called compile time polymorphism, which will say simply if we have a more than one method with the same name, that's why it is called many form. What it could be many form? Here test is having a many form. Many form means two form. It may having a more than one also, right? More than two also. Let's say if I'm having a three here. That time here let me keep one more argument here, int of y. So right now I have a three methods. One is having a no argument, one is having a one argument, one is having a two argument. Right? So this is kind of method overloading, and it may be possibility I may have a, like more than one constructor, like more than two constructor also. Here also I can change the name like int of suppose id. Right? So this time I had a three constructor in a single class, right? And three method I have in the class. So that time constructor having a three different form and method also having a three different form, right? But the name are the same. If the single method are having a many form, polymorph, many form. So what is the many form? Test only is the many form. So that way you can relate that with your real definition. How does it behave like that? Always remember that overloading will happen into a single class. I only having a single class, inside that only overloading can be implemented, right? So now let's come to here. So overloading example, then what I will do here. So which constructor it will call? It will call the constructor which could be a no parameter, right? If I will create more than one object here, and if I will pass here suppose hello, so it will call a one constructor. Let's say it is a O1. Which constructor it will be called? Which is having a one. See here, whenever it is going to call, right, it is its color is changing, right? Normally it's look like it's disabled because nothing is calling to this constructor. Now this constructor is calling, that constructor is calling. Now I'm to call that third constructor which is taking name and id, right? So I can come here and I can simply copy this line and paste here. Only the reference will change because reference cannot be the same name. New overloading, and here I will keep what? Hello with some values like 10. So that way it will differentiate. Okay, you are calling a constructor, fine. It is calling no parameter constructor. It is calling one parameter constructor. It is calling two parameter constructor where first one is a string and second one is a int. Right? Same way we can call the method o.test. First I will call test o.test with one string integer argument. Right? o.test. One is having a test which is taking two argument 10, 20. So it is giving the clear indication that which method you want to call. Name are the same, no problem, but argument are the different. Then JVM is understand that clearly. Okay, now I can understand in terms of argument which method you are calling in terms of argument, right? So that is the one kind of scenario of overloading. We do use very rare in terms of development this, okay, but we should know the concepts because it doesn't have like too much kind of benefit of it, right? But yeah, we should know the concepts because in some of the scenarios we may use it. But yeah, the second part of is called overloading. Overloading, that is one of the important part and that we do use very frequently, right? So second part now we are going to cover because it is two type, right? Overloading. So overloading we have covered. Now we are coming to the runtime polymorphism, dynamic method dispatch, or it is called overriding also. So what is overriding? As name suggests, right? As name suggests. What name suggests? Override. If something is there, right? If something is going on top of it, that means it is going to override it. So when we are overriding means what? If parent and child both are having the multiple method with the same name. So overriding always happening in the multiple class. Always happening in multiple class. So let me write this definition clearly here. If, right, one method, if the same method define in multiple class. If same method defined in multiple class and they are connected by inheritance, right? Then it is called what? Overriding or runtime polymorphism. So don't confuse guys, these three names are the same. People may call you what is the runtime polymorphism, people may call you what is the overriding, people may call you what is the dynamic method space. So you don't have to confuse it because all three are the same only, right? So if the same method define multiple classes, right? This define in multiple classes. Here it was defining in a single class only, right? Overloading is defining in a, if multiple method with the same name is defining in a single class, but here it is defining into a multiple class. And here you have to keep in mind, here argument was the different, but here argument also will be the same. That means the same method defined in multiple class. So same method means here I'm talking that complete signature, right? That should be match, right? What does it means here? Let me look that example here. So that definition first you have to remember it. The same definition we are going to implement it, right? So let's have two classes here, right? Say like class, say employee, okay, and having a one more class which could be say like my employee, suppose it could be any name, okay? I'm just giving any name here because I want to explain the concepts. So one is having a employee class, one is having a my employee class. Employee class is having a one method like a void test, right? Employee test also is having a class, same method like void test. So this time you can say that I have two classes, employee class and my employee class. This time does it overriding? No. Why? Because they are the independent classes. Employee class and my employee class both are the independent classes. There's no relation between both of them. So that's why I cannot override that method in this scenario. So what is it? The method name should be the same in multiple classes, right? But multiple classes should connect by the inheritance rule, right? That the definition is saying, right? If the same class, same method defined in multiple classes and they are connected by the inheritance, then it is called overloading. Sorry, overriding. So how to connect with the inheritance? What I have to do? I have to use extend keyword here, right? Extends employee. This time I can use one annotation here called override. So which method is having a like same in the parent and child, right? On the top of it, I can use that override. One thing you have to remember here. Here what we are overriding? We are overriding the method. Can we override the constructor? Okay. So constructor cannot be overridden. The reason is that constructor cannot be the same name. Let's say here if I will create a constructor, the constructor name by the name of the employee only. If I will create the constructor here, that time it could be the name of my employee. So because of that, constructor overloading cannot be possible because the name will be different and then will not understand that you're talking about which one. For overriding, the name must be the same, return value should be the same, and argument also must be the same, right? So name, return value and argument, they all must be the same, right? Will be the same, should be the same, then it will come overriding. So always remember that constructor cannot be overridden. So let me make a note of it. Okay, one of the important part, too much important part guys. Okay, note what? Constructor cannot be overridden. If you will override the constructor, then it could be a problem. Problem is it cannot be possible because constructor will having a different name in different classes, right? It will always happening in the different classes. Overriding always happening in the different classes. So that's why constructor cannot be overridden. So if you have a like employee and my employee, they both will be different constructor and both cannot be overridden. But yeah, here we have a like test method here and test method here. That means that can be override. Now I'm creating here the test class, which could be say like my test. And here I'm keeping the main method. Okay. Let me keep here one sysout system.out.println and here I will give it is a employee test. And let me keep up one more sysout in the child. That could be my employee test. So our two classes here, employee test and my employee test, they are connected by the inheritance rule, right? Now we are coming to the my test here. So here I have to use this both of the classes. So we know that here they are connected by the inheritance rule. So in inheritance we have seen, right, there was a one rule. What was the rule in inheritance? From there only that practically you can understand that what is the difference between inheritance and overriding. They look like same only but having a huge difference. Okay, what is the difference? That line will understand, then only you can get that. Okay, that is the difference in both of them. So first I'm talking about inheritance. Okay, try to understand it. Inheritance, what happened, right? Object reference, sorry, child reference, child class reference hold child class object. That is the rule we have already seen. Like for example, in this scenario, if I want to create object of employee class, right? How can I create? So employee is a parent and my employee is a child, right? So what I will do here, I will go with the my employee am equal to new my employee. So that is called inheritance, right? The child class object I created, my employee, I did not create employee, right? And then new my employee, which is also child. But in inheritance, sorry, in polymorphism or overriding, right? In overriding, what happened? In overriding, what happened? That parent reference hold the child object. One of the too much important guys that concepts which everybody should understand that. Okay, if you want to become a developer, that concept should be clear because that will use in frameworks also many times. But we should be clear about it. If parent reference hold the child object, what does it means? I will create the reference of the parent which is employee here. So employee is a parent. Employee E1 equal to new object will be from the child class. So that I will say new my employee. So we know that here this part is a reference and that part is object. So that is the difference between this is a inheritance and this is the overriding, right? If child reference, so M is a reference, right? So that is a type of child class. If child reference holding the child object, inheritance. If parent reference holding the child object, overriding, right? So that is some of the basics I covered about difference between overloading and overriding, right? Sorry, riding only, right? So we will continue the same. So let's understand to run this code. So here we have a like constructor like system dot out dot println and I can say here it is employee constructor. Okay, and here I will keep this. That could be my employee constructor. Okay, and then in the test class, what I will do, I will create object. So this is not we are going to use. Here we are going to use this only. So what happen here? I will call e1.test. Now see how does it override. So in case of that scenario, right? First, what happen? Employee e1 equal to new my employee. So my employee is a class and it is calling the constructor. So new my employee is directly calling the constructor of the my employee class, and my employee class is by default first statement it is having a super calling statement, right? So immediately it will go to the employee class and it will display first employee constructor. After that it will come back to the my employee and it will display the my employee constructor. So this time it is calling both class constructor. So I'm getting the output from uh, employee constructor as well as my employee constructor, right? After that it will back to the my test only. But in case of e1.test, what is happening, right? So e1 is a reference of employee class and it is storing the child object, so that it is coming to the my employee. In the my employee having a test, right? That means this will override. This will override with whom? The parent here, which is an employee if test, right? So output will be here. That will be my employee test only, right? It will not display this employee test because this method will be override, right? By the method of this child test. So now let me run this. So you can see here I'm getting employee constructor, right? My employee constructor, my employee test. So my employee test I'm getting, but I'm not getting employee test because employee test is overridden by the child class. So what is the rule of overriding? First of all, you have to understand that the parent class and child class should have the method name is the same with the same signature, right? So overriding will say that what parent and child class should have the method name with same signature. Okay, same signature. So what is the signature actually? Signature is something which is a complete syntax actually. So here you can see here I am writing here this. So it is a signature actually. Return values, method name and argument. That is a signature. So same return value, same name, same argument should be in the child and parent both. That is called signature, right? So the parent and the child class should have the method name with same signature. With the same signature, right? That is called first condition. Second condition is that the parent reference hold the child object. That is also come under the overriding rule only. So this is the two overriding rule. Okay, we will having a different scenario as well on it. So we'll look on it in the next video. Okay, next session. So that's it about this session. Thanks guys. Thanks for watching. Take care. If you like the video, please subscribe it. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye bye.